You think you can, but you can't. The human mind is remarkable. But it is also forgetful. A thought comes, an idea flashes. A lesson strikes you right in the heart. And then by tomorrow, it's gone. That's why you have to write it down. You know, a journal doesn't have to be a diary. A diary is a record of what happened. A journal is much more. It's a place for ideas, for discoveries, for the little bits of wisdom you pick up along the way. It's a place where you catch your life as it's flying by before it slips away unnoticed. A diary tells you what you did. A journal tells you who you are becoming. Let me tell you how I got serious about this. I was 25 years old, broke, and blaming the world for my empty pockets. I blamed my job because they wouldn't pay me more. I blamed the government because they just take way too much in taxes. I just didn't understand why I had it so tough. And that's when I met a man named Earl Schaff. And Emmer Schaff was an incredible man. And he changed my life not long after I met him. And I think Emmer Schaff had such an impact on me because he had an interesting way of putting things. He would casually let out these little pieces of gold. And I didn't want to miss any of that. Who would? And I knew that these little pieces of gold could turn my whole direction. So I'd better keep track of them. If I don't, I'll forget where they're buried. And if I forget that, then I'll just go right back to being broke, discouraged, and lost. So I went down to the store and bought myself a little notebook, nothing fancy, just a place where I could start collecting treasures. Every time he said something, I wrote it down. Every time I read something from a good book, I captured it. Every time I heard a story, I recorded it. I started building a warehouse of ideas, and looking back, that little notebook became one of the most valuable possessions I ever owned. Some people say, well, thanks, Mr. Rohn, but I don't need to write it down. I'll remember it. No, you won't. That's the oldest mistake in the world. We overestimate our recall. You think you'll never forget that thought you had in the shower this morning, but by the time you finish breakfast, it's already gone. Ideas are slippery. They don't stand still for long. You have to grab them quickly. You have to trap them on paper before they vanish. And here's the truth. If you don't write it down, you've just signaled to your mind that it wasn't important. Your mind says, well, if it wasn't important enough to capture, let's just throw it away. But the moment you pull out your pen and put it in your journal, your mind says, oh, this matters. This is important stuff. Here and then something amazing happens. You remember more. Your awareness sharpens. Life begins to speak to you more. Often because you've shown you're paying attention. Journaling is the evidence that you are a serious student of life. You can fool your friends, you can fool your neighbors, you can even fool yourself for a while. But your journal doesn't lie. It's there in black and white. What you noticed, what you missed, what you cared enough to preserve. When you look back, you see the pattern of your own growth. Think about it. If you had started keeping a journal 5 years ago, can you imagine what you'd have today? A treasure chest of insights, a roadmap of your progress, proof of how far you've come. And if you don't start today, 5 years from now, you'll wish you had. That's the cost of delay. See, there's a magic in journaling, and it's not just in recording the past. It's in designing the future. You can write down goals. You can track habits. You can sketch out dreams. You can outline plans, a little of this and a little of that with a journal. You can think on paper, and when you think on paper, you think better. You know, writing forces you to slow down, to clarify, to decide what you really mean. The vague becomes clear, and the unclear becomes a plan. So don't trust your head. Trust your journal. Don't let ideas escape. Don't let experiences vanish. Don't let wisdom slip through your fingers. Write it down, capture it, save it. Because the day will come when you'll open those pages, and the person you were yesterday will whisper secrets to the person you are today. And that conversation might just be the spark that lights your tomorrow. The first thing a journal gives you is perspective. Perspective is a gift you can't buy, you only earn it. Life looks different when it's on paper. When you write down a problem, it's no longer swirling in your head, confusing you. On paper becomes clear. You see it for what it is. You see size, and most of the time you realize it isn't as big as you thought. Think about it. Journaling is like holding up a mirror, not the kind of mirror that shows your face, but the kind that shows your character, your values, your fears, your patterns. If you read back through your journal, you'll discover something fascinating. You'll find yourself repeating the same complaints, The same worries, the same excuses. And the moment you see the pattern, you can change it. That's the magic a journal exposes you to yourself. I remember flipping through one of my journals years ago and seeing the same line appear 3 or 4 times. I need to work harder on my time management 3 or 4 times. Months apart I see it over and over, and now I'm thinking, Jim, when are you gonna finally get serious about this? That one reflection pushed me to build the discipline of planning my days. See, without the journal I may have gone on excusing myself. But on paper the truth stared me in the face. Success leaves clues, but so does failure, and your journal becomes the record of both. It's your personal case study. If you look closely, you can trace the connection between your habits and your results. You'll see that the days you wrote down goals were often followed by days of progress. The weeks you captured ideas were often the weeks of growth, and the days you got lazy with your journal were often the days you drifted. Don't underestimate the power of catching yourself in the act of living. Most people drift through life unaware of what they're really doing. But the one who journals, he notices, he pauses, he reflects. And because he reflects, he grows. That little notebook becomes his private laboratory, a place to test ideas, measure progress, and learn the lessons that experience is offering. Tell me, what would it be like if 5 years from now, you could open a book and see exactly what you were thinking today? Not what you think you remember, but the real thing, the actual thoughts, the real lessons, the exact decisions you were wrestling with. Wouldn't that be powerful? Because here's the truth, memory fades, but ink lasts. Some of the most successful people I've met were relentless note takers. They understood that the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. When you write, you freeze the moment, and later when you read it again, relive the moment. You give yourself a second chance to learn what you may have missed the first time. I can't count how many times I've gone back through old journals and found an idea I wasn't ready for the first time. I wrote it down. Maybe I didn't have the maturity or the resources or the confidence back then, but years later there it was again, waiting for me. Same sentence, new meaning. That's the leverage of keeping a record. You build a library of wisdom that grows richer every time you revisit it. Now, don't make journaling complicated. Don't worry about spelling or grammar. This isn't for English class, right? This is for you. Just write what you think, what you feel, what you notice, what you want. Keep it simple, keep it honest. Don't write for anyone else. Write for the person you are becoming. I'm telling you, if you don't keep a journal, you'll miss yourself. You'll miss your own progress. You'll miss the little steps that add up to the big changes. You'll wake up one day wondering how you got there. But see, with a journal, you'll see the trail. You'll see the decisions. You'll see the turning points, and you'll thank yourself for keeping track. The journal is proof that you paid attention, proof that you were present, proof that you were not just drifting through life, but living it with awareness. And if you do this, I promise the person you'll meet on those pages 5 years from now will amaze you, because it won't be the same person who started. It will be someone wiser, sharper, stronger, because you gave yourself the gift of perspective. One of the best things about keeping a journal is how it multiplies your ideas. Ideas are like seeds. One seed looks small, insignificant, but planted in with time and care, it grows into a tree, and from that tree come more seeds, and from those seeds, more trees. That's what happens when you write your thoughts down. A single note, a single observation can grow into something far greater than you imagine. Now, here's what most people do. They let their ideas drift away. They get a flash of inspiration in the car or at the store, and then by the time they get home, it's gone. That's like finding a gold nugget and throwing it back in the river. Why would you do that? If you catch an idea and trap it in your journal, you can come back to it later, polish it, develop, test it, expand it. The smallest thought, properly captured, can become a breakthrough. That's why I encourage people to be hunters of ideas. Carry your journal, be ready. You never know when a sentence, a story, a lesson, a phrase will strike you. And when it does catch it, don't rely on your head. Rely on your pen, because the more you write, the more you'll notice life rewards the one who pays attention. And here's something else. When you write, you give your mind permission to keep producing. Your subconscious recognizes that you're serious, that you're paying attention, and it begins to send more ideas. It's almost like opening a faucet, right down the first drop, and suddenly a stream begins to flow. But if you ignore the first drop, the faucet stays closed. I remember one time I was on an airplane, and I had a simple thought about time management. I wrote it down later. I came back to it, developed it, expanded it. That little note turned into a book. And now there's this whole seminar I give on time management. And that seminar was recorded. And I hope it goes on to influence thousands. But you see, it began as a simple little idea. And I might have lost it if I hadn't trapped it on paper. That's what your journal can do. For you, it's not just a record of the past. It's a seedbed for the future. Every note you write is a potential speech, a potential book, a potential business, a potential solution. And don't think you need to write something profound every day. Just write something, even if it's small, even if it feels ordinary, because ordinary observations, when combined, can create extraordinary insights. And here's the key. You don't have to be a genius to capture genius. Sometimes the greatest value of your journal is not what you think up, but what you collect from others. A line from a book, a verse from the Bible, a lesson from a teacher, a quote from a friend. These treasures, when written down, become part of your library. And when you read them again, they belong to you. If you don't write them down, you'll lose them. But if you do, you can return to them again and again, each time at a deeper level. One sentence can guide you for a lifetime if you preserve it, but only if you keep it safe in your journal. So remember, your journal is not just paper. It's a factory where raw ideas go in and refined gold comes out. Don't underestimate the power of a single line, a single thought. Plant it, let it grow, come back to it, and one day you'll look around and realize that your life has been built on the seeds you decided to save. Now I want to talk about how you can turn your journal into a little workshop for designing the future. You see, you don't just write down what happened, you write down what you want to happen. You don't just record events, you shape direction. A journal becomes the place where goals are born, where dreams are given structure, where vague wishes are turned into specific plans. I learned early on that you don't just think it, don't just hope it, put it on paper. Because once you write it, you've made it visible. You've made it real. A goal not written is just a wish, and wishes drift away. But a written goal has power. It stares back at you from the page. It demands a response. When you write it down, you lock it and you begin to see opportunities you would have missed. You begin to align your daily actions with that written goal, and little by little the gap between where you are and where you want to be begins to close. And don't just write big goals, write small ones. To write about the kind of person you want to be, write about the habits you want to form, write about the skills you want to learn. Because every time you write, you're carving a path. And here's the secret: goals you write often become goals you reach. But here's what else a journal lets you do: it lets you track progress. It's not just about where you're going, it's about how far you've come. You can look back and see the distance you've traveled. You can measure growth. You can remind yourself that while you may not be where you want to be yet, you are not where you used to be. That perspective keeps you encouraged. When you put your goals in your journal, something else happens. You make yourself accountable. The page becomes a mirror. You can't lie to it. You can't excuse yourself forever. You see clearly whether you're moving or drifting. And that honesty is one of the greatest gifts journaling can give. Sometimes I'll flip back through my journals and see a goal I wrote down years ago. Maybe I accomplished it, and I get the joy of checking it off. Maybe I didn't, and I get the challenge of asking myself why. Either way, the journal keeps me honest. It tells the truth about my intentions and my actions. And I'm telling you, one of the most inspiring things you'll ever do is read back through your old goals and realize that you're living today the life you once only dreamed about. That's when you see the real magic. You wrote, you worked it, and then one day you're living it. That's powerful. So don't leave your future floating in the clouds. Pull it down, put it in writing, shape it on paper. Let your journal be the architect's desk where the blueprint of your life is drawn. Because if you don't design your own future, someone else will design it for you, and chances are they won't design it in your favor. The journal is where you stop drifting and start directing. It's where your vague desires become clear targets. It's where hope becomes a plan, and once it's written, you can go to work on it. That's the magic of journaling. Your life not just preserving where you've been, but creating where you're going. One of the strongest reasons for keeping a journal is what it does to your character. A journal demands discipline, and discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment, between desire and destiny. Anybody can think, anybody can wish, but the disciplined person captures records, reflects plans, and acts. That's the difference. Think about it. If you carry a journal, you're making a statement. I'm serious. I'm paying attention. I'm a student of life. The average person drifts through the days noticing Little remembering less, but the one with a journal becomes awake. You show life you are ready to learn. And when life sees you're serious, it delivers more lessons. But let's be honest, journaling will probably expose you, because when you write down your goals and your actions, you start to see the gap. You see what you said you would do, and then you see what you actually did. And that gap can sting. It's much easier to hide from ourselves when nothing is written down, but on paper the truth is plain. But that's part of the magic. A journal won't let you get away with excuses forever. When you see the same complaint repeated, the same delay repeated, the same wish repeated, you finally have to face yourself. And facing yourself is the first step to changing yourself. It's like having a coach who never lies. The journal won't flatter you. It won't sugarcoat the truth. It shows you the score. And once you know the score, you can get better. Now here's the other side. The journal also records your victories, and that's just as important. Because sometimes we forget how far we've come. We forget the small wins. We forget the days we did right. The journal preserves those moments. And when you're discouraged, you can flip back and remind yourself, I've won before, I can win again. That strength. See, a journal keeps you honest, but it also keeps you encouraged. It pushes you to grow, but it also reminds you you've already grown. It calls you higher, but it also confirms that you're climbing. That balance is what builds character. Not too hard, not too soft, just the truth. And here's something you should know. Journaling is not just discipling. With a pen, it spreads into the rest of your life. If you're disciplined enough to capture thoughts, you become disciplined enough to manage time. If you're disciplined enough to review your goals, you become disciplined enough to act on them. Discipline in one area creates discipline in others. So don't treat journaling as a casual habit. Treat it as training. Training for your mind, training for your character. Every time you open that book, you're building the muscle of attention, reflection, and honesty, and those muscles will serve you in business and health, in relationships and leadership. Everywhere. I say it all the time. Success is nothing more than a few disciplines practiced every day. Well, the opposite is also true. Failure is just a few errors in judgment. Repeated every day. A journal helps you catch those disciplines and those errors, and once you see, you can multiply the good and eliminate the bad. You see, a journal is not just paper. Think. It strengthens you by showing you both sides, the excuses and the victories, the drift and the discipline. And if you use it well, it will shape you into the kind of person who can be trusted with bigger responsibilities, bigger opportunities, and bigger rewards. The journal isn't just about business goals or personal reflections. It touches every area of your life. It all belongs in those pages. Why? Because your life is not lived in pieces. It's a whole, and if you want the whole to improve, you must keep track of all its parts. I want to talk about a few things that you can include in your journal. If you aren't already, these are just suggestions. So you don't have to use these. But I want to start with money. This is important. You see, because most people never write down their financial goals. They let money slip through their fingers without a record, without a plan. But a journal can become your financial dashboard. Write down what you earn, write down what you spend, write down what you want to give, what you want to save, what you want to invest. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Write it down and make it visible. Wealth doesn't come by accident. It comes by design, and design begins on paper. Here's what else can go in the journal: health. Think about how many people say they want to lose some weight or get in shape, but they never keep score. If you don't measure it, you can't improve it. Keep a record. Track your meals, track your workouts, track your progress. Your journal can hold you accountable to the body you want to build, and when you look back, you'll see the truth. Not what you imagined, but what you actually did. That record can be the push you need to stay consistent. Now here's one that most people don't think of. They write down a lot about themselves. But I want you to try this. Use your journal to start keeping track of people. Write down what you admire in others. Write down the kind things someone did for you. Write down lessons from conversations. Write down promises you make so you don't forget. Imagine how much stronger your relationships would be if you carried the details of people's lives with you because you wrote them down. Remembering someone's story, someone's birthday, someone's challenge that matters, and your journal can make you the kind of person who never forgets, and legacy. This one's important. A journal is not just for you. It's for those who come after you someday. Your children or grandchildren might read your words. They'll see what you were thinking, what you were learning, what you were struggling with, what you overcame. They won't just know what you did. They'll know who you were. That's priceless. Think about it. We have the words of the wisest men and women in history because they wrote them down. The Bible is a journal of centuries. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations was his private notebook. Benjamin Franklin kept records of his habits. We're still learning from them today. Imagine if they had decided not to write thinking. They would remember it all. We'd have nothing. But because they wrote, we have wisdom. Across the ages, don't cheat your future family. By staying silent, leave them your thoughts. Leave them your lessons. Leave them your journal. And don't say, but what if they see my mistakes? That's the point. They should, because your mistakes are part of your legacy too. When they see your honesty, your failures, your recoveries, they'll be encouraged. They'll see that greatness doesn't come from perfection, it comes from persistence. So let your journal hold all of it, your financial strategies, your health habits, your relationship notes, your dreams. For your legacy, don't divide your life, put it all together. Because when you write across every area, you see the connections. You see how neglect in one area hurts another. You see how growth in one area strengthens another. You see the whole picture. And here's the truth. Success in one area at the expense of others is not success. Money without health is misery. Career without relationships is loneliness. Influence without legacy is emptiness. Journal can remind you to balance it all, to grow it all, to live it all. That's the universality of journaling. It's not a narrow habit, it's a wide one. It's the tool that lets you capture and design the complete life. The journal is more than a notebook. It's a call to maturity. Because when you write, you are saying, I take responsibility for my own life. I will not drift. I will not leave it to chance. I will keep track. I will decide. I will grow. That's maturity. Children drift. Children forget. Adults record, reflect, and choose. And it's also a call to urgency. You don't have forever. The clock is ticking on all of us. And here's what I know. A life not captured is a life soon forgotten. Don't wait until next year. Don't wait until the conditions are perfect. Don't wait until you buy the perfect leather-bound book. Start with paper and pen. Start messy. Start today, because if you don't start, you'll keep saying someday. And someday is the disease of the poor in spirit. Stewardship. That's another word. A journal makes you a steward of your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own progress. If you don't manage your life, who will? If you don't preserve your wisdom, who will? If you don't guide your future, who will? You've been given a mind. You've been given time. You've been given opportunities. The journal is proof that you've taken those gifts seriously. And here's something I've noticed. The people who journal consistently often become leaders. Why? Because they are the ones who have clarity. They can remember what was said. They can connect dots others forgot. They can bring wisdom to the table, not just opinions. Leadership doesn't come from position. It comes from preparation, and journaling prepares you. But here's the thing. A journal filled with empty words is no better than no journal at all. Don't just write to fill pages. Write with intent. Write what matters. Write what you want to remember, what you want to use, what you want to hand down. Your journal is not a decoration. It's a tool. Treat it with respect. And think about it. Every page you write is a deposit in your future. Bank. One day you'll withdraw from it. One day when you need encouragement, you'll find it in your own handwriting. One day when you need direction, you'll read your own wisdom. One day when you need strength, you'll discover you left it for yourself years before. That's the magic. The question is not whether you should keep a journal. The question is, how could you live without one? Because life without a record drifts. Life without reflection repeats the same mistakes. Life without design ends up at random destinations. But life with a journal, that's a guided life, a thoughtful life, a designed life. So let this be the dividing line. One side are those who drift, who forget, who repeat. On the other side are those who capture, who reflect, who grow. Which side will you be on? Don't delay, don't drift. Pick up the pen, open the page, start now. Because the future belongs to the ones who preserve. Today, here's the truth. 5 years from now, you'll surely arrive. The question is where the days will pass, the weeks will roll by, the years will accumulate, and you'll look up one day and find yourself somewhere. The great question is whether that place is of your own design or just the result of drifting. So don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to memory. Don't leave it to the winds of circumstance. Pick up your pen, open your journal, and take command. Capture your life while it's happening. Write down the lessons, record the goals, track the progress. Confront the excuses, celebrate the victories, build your legacy, because if your life is worth living, it's worth recording. If your life is worth learning from, it's worth preserving. And if your life is worth sharing, it's worth writing down. Don't cheat yourself, and don't cheat the ones who will come after you. Leave a record, leave a map, leave a treasure. Do not wait before today is gone. Write something down, even if it's one line, even if it's clumsy, even if it feels small. Write it, capture it, because that one line might be the beginning of a new chapter in your life 5 years from now. Will you wish you had started, or will you thank yourself for beginning? The choice is yours, and it begins with one small act. Opening the page and picking up the pen, and take this home with you. It's not in what the book becomes, it's in what you become. A person of attention, a person of reflection, a person of design. And if you become that kind of person, there's no telling how high you can climb, how far you can go, and how much you can leave behind. Don't miss this chance. Don't let another day slip by uncaptured. Write it down, record it, reflect on it, design your future, because that future is waiting, and it's waiting for the one who decides to preserve today.